down so that late people can have a place to sit, please? Thank you. I really asked you that once, but maybe you forgot. It's all right. Also, if you're in my section, meet where we usually take attendance after this class. Okay, so I'm going to introduce the speaker for today. His name is Andre Bailey. He is an admissions and academics counselor in the EOP office, and he also teaches University 102 here. I'm just letting him do his thing.
Well, thank you, Ms. Rose. Thank you. First and foremost, I'd like to say good afternoon to you all. It's important for me to make sure that I always give, in my belief, praises on high. You know, today, with regards to the relational leadership model, which you are, it's the third chapter of exploring leadership, I want to make sure that I create a vivid picture and to make sure that you understand the elements that go along with the components and the elements that go along with the relational leadership model. If you've read the chapter, you'll understand that this particular model is not a theory. It's based in practice. And I would be remiss to not think in terms of the leaders, or should I say the teachers of the leaders, okay? When I think in terms of my own personal experience, I'm from East Oakland, California. I was gonna say born and raised. I'm from Oakland, California, very proud to be from Oakland, California. Took a roundabout process to continue my education, University of California, Berkeley, Sacramento State University, and Sonoma State University. Now, as I talk about these institutions of higher learning, there was also a lot of education and experience prior to embarking on this journey to complete an undergraduate degree, or should I say, earn credentials behind one's name. And the learning that I'm talking about is being reared by those that love you unconditionally. It could have been mom, dad, grandparents, uncles, aunts, cousins, people in the neighborhood. See, communities, families are not only biological. So again, depending on the makeup of a particular organization, group, or community, there is some significance and some value systems that we learn as we are growing to become who we are. And if you can actually think, like I said, I would be remiss to not think of the teachers of, as people perceive me as being a leader, so to speak. I don't think that there's nothing that I do that you all can't do. Now, do I think that you're at the same level or have had the same experience? No, I do not. So again, some things take time. But the one thing I want you to understand today, out of everything, and again, I want to make sure that you understand the relational leadership model, is that when knowledge speaks, wisdom listens. Okay, you might want to write that down if those of you that are taking notes. I'll just simply say it again for those of you who didn't catch that. When knowledge speaks, wisdom listens. There's two classes, and I'm really glad to see a number of my students here because not only does it make me feel relaxed and lowers my anxiety, but the reality of the situation is that we're all in this together. And when I say that we're all in this together, contrary to popular belief, I think it's great that we can split an atom or send rockets to the moon. But, and Mr. Walker, I've said this to you in the office before, what does it matter if we don't recognize how we're all interconnected? You know, what I call that is dangerous. I call that going into Aurora, Colorado, into a movie theater and shooting up the whole theater. Or I call that Newtown. Driving down in Newtown, Connecticut, making a right turn, a left turn, stopping at the stoplight, parking the car, going into the trunk. This is called methodical behavior, calculated, okay? Back in the day, it was something that we just referred to as crazy. You know, now there's something called the DSM-4, for those of you that are going into psychology, and there is an actual definition for every type of behavior known to man. Now notice that I didn't say under the sun. Now when I think in terms of under the sun, if no one has ever told you this, I'll be the first to tell you. There's nothing new under the sun. When I say that, what I'm saying is this. We all are born, we all grow, and we all, one day eventually, will no longer exist or be here. Now when I say exist, again, I'm not going to get into the spiritual realms at this point, but the fact of the matter is, this process occurs in every aspect of life. You just have to pay attention. Now I don't know when you came to school this morning, but this is a brand new day. This is a brand new day on the planet Earth. So I'm thankful to not only have been awakened to see this day, but I'm grateful and humbled by the fact that you're taking the time to not only be here, but to even listen. As I stated before, it's going to be a running theme. We're all in this together. The relational leadership model basically encompasses all of the elements that, or should I say, purpose. Again, I'll show you here real briefly. But purpose influences all these other elements, okay? These other elements is being inclusive, being valued. Also, I would say the purpose. The purpose is what's most important. Because if you think in terms of what the purpose is, if you think in terms of what your purpose in being here at school, if you think in terms of what your purpose is within your family, if you think in terms of your purpose when you attend whatever synagogue, church, if you think of your purpose, if you think of your relationship to your younger sibling, if you think of your relationship to friends of yours, there's a purpose. You need to stop and think about the purpose. Katie, if you'd be so kind. As we move on, and I talked about the primary components, the relational leadership involves a focus on 5 primary components. As you can see, inclusivity of people, diverse points of view, empowers those involved, ethical, and process-oriented. Now, what's the young lady, all about the base? What's her name? What's her name? Megan Trainor? You know, see all about the bags, about the bags. Look, it's all about the process. It's all about the process. See, it's one thing to identify the actual components, but those of us that are process-oriented, we pay attention to the process. That is to say, I'm a parent, okay? I didn't say I'm very happily married. 19 years, I can say. I look at that as a year after my oldest daughter. Thank you very much. I hear you. You know, I appreciate that because there was a particular value system that led me to think about who I wanted to, I can say, marry, or should I say, spend my life with, rear children. My wife and I, we have 3 beautiful daughters, Zaire, Amira, and Essence. I'm a proud parent of a college-going freshman now. You know, so good luck, right? You know, interesting enough, coming from Oakland, California, being from Oakland, California, I never literally imagined. I knew that the value of education had been instilled in me, but I had no idea that my daughter would have earned the right to attend Spelman University. And with that being said, I can only continue to count my blessings, because what that lets me know is that because of the relational leadership model, that there were some things that she understood. And I'm very proud to say that. But even with that being said, I brought you a message today as I get started here. I brought a message that I share with my class. The theme of my class in the fall, if anybody remembers that, thank you very much. You just reminded me, Monica. The theme of my class in the fall is, who are we anyway? Who are we anyway? If you think about that question, what makes you who you are? What's gotten you to the point to where you're thinking about the things that you think about, that you have the belief system, the value system that you have? How did it arrive? So again, you have to look at different organizations, different communities, and your experiences. Does everyone have the same experience? Absolutely not. None of us have the same exact experience. But there are a number of things that we have in common. And one of the most important aspects of the relational leadership model is being able to identify a shared vision, common ground. See, if you're going to be talking with one another, and I'll say it this way, the message from the Hopi elders goes like this, and I don't know what you're thinking about, but it says, there's a river flowing very fast, and it's so great and swift that there are those who will be afraid. They will hold on to the shore. They will feel that they are being torn apart and will suffer greatly. Know that the river has its destination. The elders say we must let go of the shore and push off into the middle of the river. Keep our eyes open and our heads above the water. And I say, who is there with you to celebrate? At this time in history, this time, not that time, this time, today, we're talking about today. Let me say, again, this is not the mess from the Hopi elders, but the fact of the matter is yesterday is a canceled check, okay? Tomorrow, I think in terms in reference to finances, but tomorrow is a promissory note. You know, tomorrow literally may never come. The only thing that you have to bank on is today. So I want to make sure that you're understanding. There's something for you, those of you that are in psychology, it's called Gestalt psychology, being in the moment. So I want to make sure that we're all here today and being in the moment. Again, with regards to the message from the Hopi elders, at this time in history, we are to take nothing personally, least of all ourselves. For the moment we do, our spiritual growth and journey becomes to an halt. Now this is the message from the Hopi elders. I haven't got into this. You see these principles, but the Hopi elders, the message of the elders. Now we're talking about Native Americans. We're not talking about when Christopher Columbus thought he arrived at India, because there's only one country, India. And I would imagine that the citizens or the residents of India are referenced as oh, Indians. Okay, I just want to make sure I'm not in here by myself. Yeah, Indians. So what I'm saying is, when you look at the reality of the time and the place that we are, you have to understand that you don't want to sell yourself short by cutting off opportunities for yourself. Some people might even refer to it as blessings. You don't want to cut your nose off to spite your face. So you don't want to take nothing personal. It's all about growth. And one thing that you will find is that when you open yourself up to learning and to becoming, let's say, more knowledgeable, because knowledge is going to be a key in this process. Because if you're not knowledgeable, there's going to be a lack of people that are going to be willing to listen to you if they don't think that you're knowledgeable or credible. Okay? The most feared person is a researcher. Okay? Don't take my word for anything. Don't take my word. Do your research. Do your study. I tell my students, believe half of what you see and none of what you hear, and you might be okay. You want me to say that again to you? Believe half of what you see, and the reason I say half of what you see, because what happens is, anybody ever experienced that you've seen something and somebody comes on and they say, they might be wearing stripes or something, and the flag goes up, and then they say, it's a whistle. Everybody's complaining. And then the person walks on and he says, or she says, depending on who's rep, you didn't see what you thought you saw. You didn't see what you thought you saw. Now I know I saw what I saw, but I guess I didn't see, since you told me that I didn't see what I saw, I guess I didn't see it. Believe half of what you see and none of what you hear. My mother always used to tell me, study to show thyself approved. That is written. Study to show thyself approved. It's just like being a good student. You have to be studious, or you have to study with regards to information so that you can understand the knowledge that are being imparted on you. Lastly, I like to say, because this is a leadership class, we are the ones that we've been waiting for. Sitting right here. We're the ones that we've been waiting for. Now, with regards to relational leadership, it's important to be able to provide certain things. This is the visual image of these elements that I'm talking about. And I said earlier, it's all about the process. Notice that process is very big. But if you pay attention to the purpose, which is critically important, if you notice, purpose influences all these other elements around it. Purpose influences that. So when I talked about family, when I talked about possibly being on a team, working in a particular job, look, I'm an EOP advisor, instructor, but I can tell you, I work for a program that values human beings more than profit. I work for a program that values human beings more than profit. What does that mean? That means that I personally, not just only have bought in, but I have a vested interest in the success of the students that I work with, regardless of the experiences, the adversities overcome, the obstacles, and even the challenges that they faced. Why? Because they've all have worked hard to get here, just as you all have. You all have worked tremendously hard to get here. Now, I don't know how often it is you reflect on what was necessary for you to get here, but it's critically important. If you don't pat yourself on the back and remember that you matter. I know that there is the philosophies, or should I say the movements that are going around the United States of America to say that Black Lives Matter. Well, if you attended the other, or should I say at the first day of instruction, as I stated, and I'll say this stated anywhere, I've been black all my life. So black lives have always mattered to me, just as well as all human life. All human life matters to me. But there's the idea or the notion that perhaps not everyone is human, civilized, sophisticated, educated. I know that any human being that goes into a hospital, if they need a blood transfusion, they don't determine whether or not somebody, you don't take animals if it's not a veterinary hospital, you take animals to a veterinary hospital, but to a regular hospital, you take human beings, and if someone's sick or ill, we use the resources and the tools necessary to hopefully help them get better. With that being said, you have to understand that when you're looking at the visual images of the elements, empowerment, ethical, inclusiveness, there has to be a shared purpose. The purpose, again, what I want to do today is I'm going to help you design a personal shield for yourself. Now you saw the other, and again, please take out a piece of paper. If you take out a piece of paper, the only thing that I'm going to do is make sure that you have these 5 quadrants. And just like the relational leadership model, where purpose influences the other elements, there's something about you that is influenced by everything that's happened to you. And I'm going to give you these questions for each one of the quadrants, but again, I want you to be able to make a personal shield of your own. Now, in quadrant number 1, all you have to do is write down the questions. I'm not going to ask you to let me know what your personal shield is now, but I want to make sure you have the question. For quadrant number 1, I want you to name 3 important values in your life. That's for quadrant number 1. That question is 3 important values in your life. In quadrant number 2, I'd like you to indicate 3 to 5 people you admire. In quadrant number 3, and again, at this time, you're only writing the questions. In quadrant number 3, you're going to indicate the question or answer the question, at least 3 things that I'm good at. So when you think of 3 things that you're good at, and again, not now, but again, for quadrant number 3, you're going to write those down. In quadrant number 4, I'd like you to list 3 turning points in your life. 3 turning points in your life. I can share with you becoming a father, going to college. The loss of my very best friend was a true turning point in my life. The loss of my very best friend, the friend that I went to elementary, junior high, and high school with. He graduated with honors. He named his son after both of our names. So you can imagine the impact that had on me as I started out as a freshman and I lost my very best friend. Last but not least, in the 5th box, in that box that's centered around everything else, I would like for you to write the question, where would I be in 10 years? Or I'll state it this way. In 10 years, I see my life like this. Okay? So those are just the components for your personal shield. Yes?
What was the third one?
The third one, for box number 3, is at least 3 things that I'm good at. At least 3 things that I'm good at. Now, as we talk about purpose, being that particular primary component that influences all the others, I've taken a couple of clips. Now, I will say this. In honor of Black History Month,
That's because you like the box.
you know, and it is Black History Month. You know, I just say in honor of Black History Month, when I was thinking about the 3 people I admire. Now, I haven't told you a lot about my grandfather, but my grandfather, not only was he my #1 fan, but my grandmother passed away, and I have a very large family. My grandfather was my roommate in college for 2 semesters. I told that to my class, but I really don't tell that to people. If you can imagine my grandfather, someone that loves me unconditionally. Now, clearly, when he passed away, in his absence, he was 86 years old. Remember when I said when knowledge taught, wisdom listened? To have my grandfather as my roommate in college. Look, I was a former student athlete. I played football. Actually, I played on the championship team here, so when you go in the gym and you see champions up there, or you can just go in the hall and you see the Hall of Fame and see, we don't never talk about that stuff, but you want to know where you are. You want to know what happened. Again, it's not often that you get a chance to be able to share just a few things about yourself. Now, if I was asking about you all, I have to tell you a little bit about me. That's important. When we talk about purpose, my grandfather would always talk about Muhammad Ali. And I got a chance to see some of his fights at the latter part of his career. I mean, again, even having watched some on video since our technology is so great. But it was something very fascinating about Muhammad Ali, not just as a boxer, but as a human being and as a person. And as I was watching the clip, he talked about the purpose. The question was posed to him about what would you tell your son? And so I was thinking, relational leadership. Well, this might be something I can share with the class. Not only in Black History Month, but again, we're talking about great Americans. And as you know, Black history is American history. Again, I'll get into that. Katie, can we run that clip? And please, listen up. And for anyone that needs the captions, we're going to have IT do captions or anything. I don't know what Alvin is, but they said they can do that too.
Whether you like to box, you've become certainly a very well-known world figure. People know about you in every corner of the earth. You say you want to be a sort of a Black Henry Kissinger. What is it you want to do after you stop fighting?
Well, I figured that we only have so many hours a day to do whatever we have to do. So many years to live, and in those years we sleep about 8 hours a day. We travel, we watch television. If a man's 50 years old, he's lucky to say if he's had 20 years to actually live. So I would like to do the best that I can for humanity. I'm blessed by God to be recognized as the most famous face on the earth today, and I cannot think about no better than helping God's creatures or helping poverty or working for good causes where I can use my name to do so to help this country in other countries where we're having various problems where my influence might help.
Mama, what would you say to your son if he came to you and expressed a desire to box?
Well, I think I'm going to control him or help my wife to control him, and that's she educated first and get his mind together. And I wouldn't encourage him to box. I'll let him do it as a game, as a sport for health, but not as a livelihood because it's too dangerous. But teach him foreign language and get him, see, we're all born for purpose. Every tree, the moon, rain, snow, everything God created has a purpose, and man has a purpose. And the wise man is he who finds his life purpose, and we want to help him find his purpose in life, which I'm sure is not boxing.
Are you working?
He said he would like to help his son find his purpose in life, and he said he's sure it's not boxing. He said he didn't want his son to be a boxer because that's a very, not just dangerous, but it's a difficult way to earn a living, you know? With that being said, I want to, for the sake of time, as you're on purpose now, again, there's another clip that I want to share with you because I am going to take some feedback, and Garrett, it's good to see you out there. You know, I see you, you know, particularly before I leave campus, so hello, Garrett. Again, I want to be able to get some feedback from you, particularly after watching this next clip, on what do you think that this means when we're just talking about purpose?
Everything you see exists together in a delicate balance. As king, you need to understand that balance and respect all the creatures, from the crawling ant to the leaping antelope.
Dad, don't we eat the animal?
Yes, Simba, but let me explain. When we die, our bodies become the grass, and the antelope eat the grass. And so, we are all connected in the great circle of life.
So, now we have the animation of the Lion King, but he's saying that we're all connected in this great circle of life. And so as I thought about my grandfather and even all the experience that I had with my grandfather, often I would ask myself, because I was so amazed that someone could come back with such the passion. And when I say come back, my grandfather's been on every country in the world. He was military, and his particular role and job, he was acknowledged by the UN, the Asian Pacific Campaign, the Korean War. He had a lot of places that he had to go and do certain things. And what I couldn't believe is the compassion that a human being, after whatever one had to do, could come back and show so much compassion to people. My experience riding with my grandfather is critically important. As we would take these adventures, I called them adventures, they were jobs to him, but if we were going to Mr. Taylor's house or Mr. McAbee's house, and I get to play with Mr. McAbee's kids or Mr. Taylor's kids and Mr. Taylor's wife, of course, But I would always think, when we got back in the truck, my granddaddy would say, well, you know what, Andre? Well, actually, he didn't call me Andre. He called me by a nickname. I don't want to share that nickname. I can't tell y'all. He said, I'm a respectable businessman. I'm like, a respectable businessman? You have to understand that there was a particular philosophy that my grandfather had as he interacted with people. The one thing that I always heard him say, and I very seldom hear this phrase today, he would say to people, thank you very kindly. Thank you very kindly. Contrary to how smart people think they are, everybody remembers how you treat them. So again, a lot of these expert facts that you get in classrooms and whatnot, and some students do what the professor wants them to learn. Some students figure out what the professor likes, and they do just that. Have you ever thought about, if you have the openness to learning and the willingness and the commitment to learning, have you ever thought all that you can take in? Even in my graduate courses, I've never focused on the grade. I was so excited to be able to learn the information, to become more knowledgeable, to the extent that now I can be considered as a crisis management person. I mean, we're talking about catastrophic disasters. You know, you have to understand the difference between a building level response, a community response, a district response, or a state level response. Not everybody can do that. So the thing is that when you embrace learning, not only do you open yourself up to not only new ideas, new perspectives, but you begin to become inclusive. Inclusive meaning others that are let's say participants in whatever organization or community. Let's break it down. You guys are all in leadership. So whether you're looking to be a CSA or looking to become a summer bridge leader, looking to be an orientation leader, you are going to be charged with the responsibility of supporting and helping students transition to college. Now, once you understand the ultimate goal is to help us retain those students, then the overall outcome, regardless of what it looks like, the ultimate objective is you completing your undergraduate degree. Then we will start the conversation, or should I say not just then, we will start the conversation and hope that you'll go on to continue your education. But right now, when you think about purpose, purpose is vision-driven and it's not position-driven. The leaders and the members of any organization or community promotes the organization's purpose through a shared vision and not for self-gain. Not for self-gain. Listen to this, and again, I often read, let's say, Lao Tzu, the Dao Duck Jing. It's spelled T-A-O, but it's pronounced Dao. So some of you may be getting this in some of your leadership classes. But there's one thing that Lao Tzu says, and he talks about being oneself, but then he talks about selflessness and selfishness. Listen to this very closely. True selflessness, in essence, is selfish. And I'll say that again. True selflessness, in essence, is selfish. Why do I say that? Because if I'm giving, and I'm talking about from a supportive standpoint, from a knowledge standpoint, even from a financial standpoint, the idea and the hope is that it's going to come full circle. Not so much to me. It may come to your children, your community, an organization or group that you look to become a part of. But on the basis of a relational leadership model, if I want you to be the best that you can be, it's necessary for me to provide you with all the resources that I have available to me so that you can be the best that you can be. In addition to the resources that needs to be provided, it's also about empowerment. I want to empower you to recognize and realize that you have the same ability, as I started off by saying, you have the same ability as anyone else on the planet Earth, given the fact that you tap into that particular energy. See, ultimately, we're trying to reach this point of energy, synergy, and I just, let's do it this way. This is the best way that I can do this. Let me see out there, somebody in the back. I'm trying to see somebody way back there. Somebody raise your hand. Just anybody raise your hand. Thank you very much, Ms. Lynch. I see everything. That's. So, if you could just stand up and just say yes as loud as you can. Just stand up and say yes loud as you can. The word is Y-E-S. All you have to do is stand up And then you will say, yes, as loud as you can. I probably can speak louder than you, but you can say yes loud as you can. Wait a minute. Ranisha, I heard you in the office a couple of weeks ago because you were frustrated that whatever you were frustrated about, you sounded louder than you just said yes. Do you think you can try that again, please? You did raise your hand. Yes. Okay. Maybe if you stand up, it'll be a little bit louder. Can you say yes? Can you stand up? This is Schroeder Hart. This is a $165 million facility. Okay. The walls are not going to crumble. Okay, let's for the sake of time, I'm going to ask all of you to stand up right now. Just for the sake of time, everybody stand up. You too, Savannah. Everybody stand up. Everybody stand up. Thank you very much. On the count of 3, everybody just say, loud as you can, just say yes. 1, 2, 3. Yes! That sounds like a football. A stadium game. No, don't sit down yet. Don't sit down yet. Don't sit down yet. Just one more time. One more time. This is what I want you to say. Yes, I matter. On 3. 1, 2, 3. Yes, I matter. We don't even have a football team here. You know? So what I'm saying is that, thank you very much. I really appreciate that. The point that I'm trying to make, thank you very much. The point that I'm trying to make is when you look at the energy or you feel the energy and the vibration of all of us together, when we talk about being inclusive, think about that type of power. Now again, I'm going to get into the sources of power here shortly. Again, I know we got an hour here, but what I'm saying is you have to feel that energy and power. So when you think of the energy and power in families and groups and organizations and communities, from a relational leadership standpoint, when my granddad sits here and he tells me, he says, well, you know, Andre, one of these days, it's like with fossils, one of these days, you know, you're going to have to stand up for your cousins. I'm like, what you mean? They can stand up, they walk, they... No, what I'm saying is that based on the experiences, it's just me and granddad. And I'm just saying that experience was worth more than $1 million to me, worth more than $2 million. It's invaluable. And it doesn't just have to be grandfather. There's people, when you think about who supported you in getting here, when you think about those that are here now to support you, look at the characteristics of those people. Think of the characteristics. If you think about the people that you find to be not just true leaders, but just giving, what are the characteristics of these people? For the sake of time, compassion. What did you say, Mom? Caring. They go into caring and compassion. Thank you very much. If someone is compassionate and they're compassionate for the world, that means that the best interests of others as a whole, the best interest of others, I'm going to work to do that. What's the other one? Generally people that are, let's say, compassionate or these leader types, and again, tell me if I'm wrong, they're generally modest people. Okay, you can say loyal, modest. They have a tendency to live pretty frugal. Frugality. But frugal, in essence, is you living frugal not because you don't have the means to get anything. You want to have abundance to be able to give someone else. Think about it. If you think about the characteristics of your best coach, your best teacher, and when I say best, I'm saying based on your perception and your evaluation. Think about the characteristics and quality. So if in fact that I can extend that same, let's say, altruism, the unselfish concern for others, just think about that, how it would make one feel. See, if you're not being empowered to express yourselves or to convey your ideas, then you're not taking part in this process of relational leadership. See, from an empowerment standpoint, remember I said the process is all about the process? For those of us that are looking at the process, we want to make sure that you feel empowered to express your ideas, because it's only with the diversity of ideas, the diversity with experience, the diversity of culture, that you become stronger, we become stronger as, and I'll say as a people. It's not when someone says those people over there. I said as a people. Strong families build strong societies build strong communities build strong states, and strong states build strong nations. And the nation does reside on planet Earth, so we're talking about the globe. Contrary to popular belief, you don't live here alone. And I'm not talking about just in Sonoma County, Los Angeles County, Alameda County. I'm talking about planet Earth. You don't live alone. There's only 4% of the world's population that live in the United States. See, again, you got to become mindful. So when we're talking about the purpose continue, understand that the purpose through shared vision, not self-vision. Shared vision is a collective component. That means that you're getting, if you've bought into the idea that we can make this happen, that means that you have a vested interest in all of our energies and effort into making this happen. That's why I said again, this is not a theory, it's a model, okay? It's a model. Knowing, being, doing, okay? Knowing, being, doing as you're looking through the materials. Knowledgeable, I talked about knowledgeable being either not just an expert, but at least having some form of information with regards to what you're talking about. It's absolutely necessary when you're looking to, I'll tell you like Abraham Lincoln said. Abraham Lincoln said, when the conduct of men is designed to be influenced, persuasion, kind, unassuming persuasion should never be adopted. If you would win a man or woman to your cause, first convince him or her you are his sincere friend. We're not talking about being fake or not being 100. We're talking about being sincere friend. Saying that I want the best for you. Again, this is Abraham Lincoln. Like I said, don't take my word for nothing. Therein is a drop of honey that catches his heart or her heart, which say, what he will is the high road to his reason, in which once gained, you will find but little trouble convincing his judgment of justice of your cause, if indeed it is a just cause. On the contrary, attempt to dictate his judgment, or to command his action, or to mark him as one to be shunned and despised, he will retreat or she will retreat within him or herself. I don't have nothing to say to you. Why you don't have anything to say? Because you don't really want to hear what I'm talking about anyway. Every time I'm talking, you're talking while I'm talking. You don't want to hear what I got to say. No, of course I do. And again, I don't want this to sound like a relationship, but again, this is a relational leadership, okay? You want to make sure people feel that they matter. That's why I said, say, I matter, okay? Yes, I matter. You want people to feel that they matter. Moving on, knowing, being, doing, you need to have knowledge. The being is being aware of self and others. First and foremost, before you're aware of others, you have to be aware of yourself. Those things that aggravate you, those things that irritate you. But what about your strengths and your weaknesses? It's not an interview question. You want to make sure that you are clearly aware of self. So we're talking about self-awareness, self-esteem, self-knowledge, basically knowledge of self. Last but not least is the doing. You know, people, I like to say, I have to use my words here. I say often, don't talk about it, be about it. A lot of people, they'll get up and they'll talk a good game. I would do this, if I almost don't count. I mean, if you play horseshoes, yes, it counts. You throw grenades and you get it close to a house, it counts. But almost does not count. So you have to think about being action-oriented. You cannot have a vision and not be action-oriented. Anyone knows and understands that a vision with no action is just a dream. Some people call them pipe dreams. You have to be action-oriented. So that's where the knowing, being, doing comes in. Inclusive. Now, I have a picture that I'm going to show you as well, but on the basis of the definition of being inclusive means understanding, valuing, and actively engaging in diversity, in views, approaches, styles, aspects of individuality such as sex or culture that adds multiple perspectives to a group's activity. I just talked about if we have a vested interest or common ground, that we just might work that much harder to reach our objective or whatever the goal may be. Again, from the collaboration and the let's say, cooperation and collaborative standpoint, you must identify stakeholders and the shareholders in the process. That is to say, depending on what the objective of your group is, it's absolutely necessary for you to also involve those that are external to your organization. You want to get their ideas. It may be different, let's say different aspects of what they want to achieve, but you want to get their shared interest. To get to the, okay, thank you. Now, I don't know, you guys see it's Jimi Hendrix up there, but again, the quote, when the power of love overcomes the power of the world, the love of power, the world will know peace. The love of power. We all know someone, whether it's a president of a club, whether it's a president of a gang, or whatever the case may be. People love power. I tell my students all the time, the world is ran by money, power, and control. That's what the world is ran by. Now again, you got to think and break it down, but what power do we possess right now? As undergraduate students, the power that you possess right now is the power of self, the power of knowing who you are, the power of learning and asking questions about who you are, how I came to be, what were the experiences of those that came before you. See, we live in a day and time now that it's all about me, myself, and I. It's all about me. This Western philosophy of thought, I gotta get the best grade, the Eastern philosophy of thought, again, when you understand that there's not the competitive nature of grades or the competitive nature of who's gonna do the best, we all learn better. That's where the group learning comes from. That's where these theories come from. So again, I have to toss in Jimi Hendrix because I did really love when the power of love overcomes the love of power. Love, I tell you, very powerful. Empowerment dimensions. There are two dimensions with regards to empowerment. As you're looking at all the elements that surrounding purpose, so when we look at empowerment dimension, the sense of self that claims ownership, claims a place in the process and expects to be involved. When you expect to be involved, or you expect to express your ideas, when you expect it, you become empowered. See, right now, or should I say, in most cases, freshmen, now a few of you come in as freshmen, you're like, look, I know what I did in high school, and you know, just give me the material, give me the things to read, and I'll do my study and my work, and I'll come back and present it to you. But you have some people that, again, with the personalities, they give power away because they don't want to question either those perceived as experts, or they don't think that the information or your experience is valuable. Your experience is valuable. It's valuable not only to you, but it's valuable to others when you decide to share with others. So again, the second dimension is in the environmental conditions. I want to make sure from someone that is process-oriented to make sure that I'm paying attention to the behavior of everyone in the group. So if somebody's not talking in that group, and we're talking about a relational leadership model, I want to make sure that I ask that person, you know, what are you thinking? You know, do you have anything to contribute to the group? And you just you'll be surprised that sometimes when someone gets their first initial opportunity to express themselves, how empowering that feels. Don't think that I was always able to come up in front of a large group and just say, this is what I think. No, I had to make sure I did some reading, make sure I did some studying so I know what to say, okay? Again, last but not least, empowerment is achieved by enabling involvement of group members and conveying faith in them. I want to say this, last year's experience of training the Summer Bridge counselors was one of the most rewarding experiences in the 20 years that I've been here. And the reason that is because I trusted and I made sure that I conveyed the faith in those that I trained, that regardless of whatever came their way or what they were faced with, I was very confident that they would make informed decisions or use information to make informed decisions on how they would handle a situation. So with that being said, it was the most relaxing experience in 20 years. Again, when we say 20 years, I just have great DNA, okay? You know, but in 20 years, it was the most relaxing. And the end result, or should I say the evidence of their work, was the returning of all these students that came in as freshmen that returned because you didn't have to come back. You made conscious choices to come back. So something must have went well. Remember I said with relational leadership, because it's a model, there's an anticipated or an expected outcome, but there is no definitive outcome. It's a process, okay? Ethical and moral leadership. Again, when we talk about the ethics in this process, just real quickly, you need to understand what ethics means. Ethics are basically the standards in which either an organization or profession guides themselves. You got the medical association, doctors, the ethics in being doctors. You have lawyers. They have, because of the profession, there's ethics in the profession. So depending on your group, the principles of conduct govern an individual profession or the standards of that behavior. We're talking about ethics. This is the idea or notion that those that are in these leadership positions will do the right thing. Now, we can't guarantee that they do the right thing, but the idea or the notion is from an ethical aspect that they'll do the right thing. But remember, ethics and morals, they derive from belief systems, okay? If you don't believe in certain things, you may not be as ethical as you want. Now, again, Dr. Martin Luther King, never be afraid to do what is right, especially if well-being of a person or animals is at stake. Society's punishments are small compared to the wounds we inflict on our soul. See, often we forget that the human body is made up of 3 components, but we only think in terms of the head, and everybody want to work out, okay? I'm talking about going to the gym. The human body is made up of 3 components, and it's not my, the other characteristics of those people, when I'm talking about those leaders, one of the other characteristics is meditation. It doesn't mean that they have to be necessarily praying, but some form of being in a Tai Chi garden or doing there has to be meditation, a reflection in itself. Now again, I know for the sake of time, because again I can see the anxiety, I wanted to say this, it's all about the process. You have the definitions of the elements, you have the driving force of purpose influencing all the elements, but when I say it's all about the process creates the energy, synergy, and the momentum of the entire group. What is the objective of your group? What do you want your group to accomplish? What do you want your team to accomplish? So again, when everyone's buying into the same shared vision and being empowered and being inclusive, the end result with the process will actually it takes the momentum of all its own. And then what happens is you come back looking for your summer bridge leaders, or you come back looking for your CSA, or you come back looking for your dorm residents or whatnot, because the process. And then what we do, those of us that are process oriented, we step back and we look and we're very proud, or should I say, it's so gratifying to see that you take on the leadership that really was already inside of you. See, as you come to the university, and I'll end with this, as you come to the university is here, you didn't come here to gain an education. You came to educate yourself to the reality of the world you live in. Now for you chemistry or natural science majors, clearly there's the methodical process of what needs to be done from a natural science standpoint. But you want to educate yourself to the reality of the world that you live in. Again, I know that's, let me see. The meaning making, I'll just say this. In all you're getting here, in all you're getting, get an understanding. In all you're getting, get an understanding. Okay? That is to say, why am I in school? What are you here for? No, better yet, why were you born? Okay? So ask yourself that question. I really want to thank you all for your undivided attention. Hopefully you were able to get something out of the relational.